Flourish.
Hello and welcome to the Flourish podcast. I am your host, Ashley Brogan, and I'm here with my other host, Ashley Schrock. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me.
Friend, you missed a week.
I'm so pleased to be here.
Glad. I'm so glad to have you back. I've been hearing raved reviews about our podcast lately from a lot of different people. Raved reviews.
That's because Jay was on.
No, because they say, I love you and Ashley together. You guys are so funny.
Yeah, but Jay's
It's just
smart.
nice hearing confirmation from what I believe. We're hilarious.
Shout
then
out
you wonder-
to Lori. Was it Lori that I met out in public?
Did you?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, she was so sweet.
That's so sweet.
Made my day. I went, oh my gosh, people are listening to this.
And she found you in
So
public.
shout out to you.
That's
Thank
amazing.
you.
Well, we're here in the, in the depths of 1
The
Samuel.
cave of Adullam. I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Is that what it's called?
I think so.
That was quick.
Trying to be spot on this week.
Here in the depths of 1 Samuel. And we're talking about none other than King David himself.
Yes.
Shout out to you, King David. So where do we start? We start in 1 Samuel, is it 24?
I think it's 22.
Oh my gosh.
That's where the cave of Adullam.
Is this where David creeps up on Saul?
I think so.
He's in the cave.
This one's interesting. This
Yeah.
is where they think. Okay, hold on. Can we talk about Saul before we get into it?
Yeah.
Like we're just an overarching thing about Saul.
Yeah.
Here's some things I've noticed about Saul, and then I want to point it out as we go through it.
Okay, great.
He's very not conspiring. He's paranoid. That's what stood out to me.
He's paranoid.
I feel like he's constantly paranoid about everybody conspiring against him.
Do you know, though, this has happened, I think, since the kingdom has been torn from him.
Interesting.
Like, since his big boo-boo with the Amalekites. He was
Yes.
supposed to kill them all, and he did not.
And he did not.
I think that opened a door in his life to be paranoid.
Something about paranoia.
Yeah.
Not trusting. He doesn't trust anybody. Even
Yeah.
people that have been with him from the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Any sort of hint of action that might be against Saul.
Yeah.
He's ready to roll heads.
Yes. I think what's interesting is so we had last week, we talked about how, Samuel had this whole thing, like the kingdom is torn from you on this day. You didn't listen to God. So God's sorry he ever made you king.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be king for much longer, whatever. But it doesn't happen right away.
Right.
And so I think that builds up paranoia.
That's a great point.
Because I think it didn't happen right away.
No.
And so then it's always like, are you going to be the one that overthrows me? I know,
Mhm.
he knows that his demise is coming.
Yeah.
And so he's probably constantly looking over his shoulder.
Mhm.
Is it now? Is it now? And what's interesting is that Samuel goes and he anoints David, and David doesn't take over right away.
No, he doesn't.
It's
But now he knows. Does Saul know that David is anointed king? I don't know. But that would make it even more complicated. Maybe that's why he wants to kill him.
Did we read about David and Goliath or not yet?
I don't think so.
See, I'm getting confused. Now we're in the confusing books because we're in Samuel/Chronicles.
And we're reading back and forth.
Yeah, and this reading plan we're doing does jump back and forth a little bit, so it can be a little confusing. But we have, I don't know if he knew that David was chosen. At some point he had to have known.
He finds out, I think, in 1 Samuel 24.
Oh my gosh, that's where I am right now.
Now behold, I know that you will surely be king, and that the kingdom of Israel will be established in your land. So anyways, it is just
paranoia.
I think it's fascinating. And I think that's a fascinating piece to keep in mind too, that he knows. It's kind of like knowing the day you're going to die in fiction books where it's like, do you want to know the day? Mm-hmm. And you have that whole conversation of, I think if I knew.
Say yes, you'd be suspicious every time you wake up.
What if it's next month? You would live differently. And so if he knows the kingdom's going to be taken from him, but he doesn't know what time.
Yeah, he's probably freaked out about it.
Yes. And I think another overarching theme, I just want to touch on it, is that it's interesting to see Saul throughout these where I feel that he's lost the anointing or lost the access to the Lord. That really stood out to me.
Yeah.
The Lord has left him.
Yeah.
He's
upset.
to me a picture of somebody. I think I said to you on the phone, I don't want at the end of my life to ever live like Saul.
No.
Because that feels like it panics me to think of the amount
the
of
Lord, like asking the Lord for something and then hearing silence on the other end of the phone
for the rest of your life. Like, wow. Or living just in this constant state of not trusting people, feeling paranoid, feeling the pressures of everything, knowing that you failed.
Well, I wonder too if the paranoia comes in the fact that you're not being like the Lord's not, he's not like extending forgiveness in this moment in a sense. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry I made you king. And even with Saul apologizing, the Lord's not like, oh, buddy.
Right.
Oh, you apologized. Because his apology was a very self-serving apology. And so I just think of that probably causes stress too, is understanding maybe back then when they were hearing not more clearly from the Lord than we do now. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
And more signs and wonders, that maybe it caused more stress. Like, could you imagine the Lord cutting you off?
No, that panics. That feels very panicky to me.
How do we know we're not doing something that will cut us off from the Lord?
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of Samson too, where Samson loses his power, because I don't think I got to talk about, maybe I was here on Samson, but and the thought of that he would sacrifice the connection to the Lord for a woman. Right? There's a lot of
what's interesting is it comes back.
Yeah, that's true. It does.
Which is
when his hair grows back.
It comes back.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if there was a humbling here that happened to Samson.
That's true. I guess when your eyes are gouged out.
Yeah, you like get humble real fast.
You can't say anything.
So we're here in 1 Samuel 24, and we're in the story of Saul is in this cave. David's on the lamb. It's one of my favorite phrases to use. He's on the lamb. He's running from Saul. And he has an opportunity that he can kill Saul. And so he cuts a piece off of the hem of Saul's robe. And then it says in verse 5, but then David's conscience began bothering him because he had cut Saul's robe.
Just the robe.
Yeah. Like, can you imagine what would have happened if David had killed him? So he said to his men, the Lord forbid that I should do this to my Lord King. I shouldn't attack the Lord's anointed one, for the Lord himself has chosen him. I think it's interesting that David's recognizing him as the Lord's anointed one, even though the Lord is no longer with Saul.
Right. Well, I think there's biblical verses about that, right? Like that the Lord chooses the king, right? That he's God's appointed, God's anointed.
100%. It makes me think about leadership in the church. It really does. Because I go, David exercised restraint here, or he had a revelation about the Lord appointing people in leadership.
Yeah.
And you have to be very careful about cutting the hem of the garment of the pastor that's leading you.
That's very good.
Because the Lord has raised, kind of like how, like, you have a president that you don't like or something.
Sure.
And we should still be praying for them anyways.
Sure.
Because it's like, there is a verse somewhere in scripture where it's like the Lord puts everybody in a place of authority. Like anyone who's in a place of authority is appointed by the Lord. So you go, I could sit here and bash the president over and over and over again and talk about how evil and horrid and whatever they are.
Sure.
Or I could pray for them.
Sure.
Like, you know what I mean? Or I could be praying for them.
Yes.
Because I'm going to recognize that the Lord has put people in authority and the Lord, he's like the one managing the whole chessboard.
Yeah.
So he knows what's happening and what's going on. And so then it's more like he's watching our response. So you have to be careful about cutting the hem of the garment of the pastor that's leading you.
That's very true.
That's all I have to say.
Also, it reminds me of two things. So they say here, it's when Saul was relieving himself, and it's just a place of vulnerability. He's vulnerable. He's also in a place where David probably realizes that he's no longer in the good graces of the Lord, right? He might be appointed, but he may not be walking with the Lord. And the third thing I noticed is that the people that were with him were going, do it, David.
Kill him.
Kill him.
Kill him, bro.
We could be all done with this in a moment.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
so sorry. I didn't silence my cell phones.
Do they want to join?
It's Irene. Shout out to Irene.
Irene just called me.
What does she need us for?
I don't know. Anyways, Irene.
That's funny.
It reminds me of Noah, right? Where we talk about how they protected their father, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what they did in his moment of weakness.
Yeah. They protected and covered him up.
More so because I think you can even apply this to a job, right? Where you have a boss who's in authority over you. And I think there's probably lots of opportunities to not only cut the hem, you could probably kill him, with in your mind, in your heart, right?
Yeah.
Where you go, I just have no respect for you because you don't even know the Lord. Like, why would I?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Totally.
I've heard people leave jobs over it. Like, well, they're not a Christian, so I left.
believer.
And I'm not criticizing it, but I think this is a great picture. This is someone who's no longer has favor with the Lord, not walking with the Lord, is paranoid, is chasing you, wants to kill you, is evil. Yeah. And David has every reason to kill him in this moment in his weakness.
He's still choosing to honor the Lord.
And he's not. He's honoring the Lord.
He's not necessarily honoring Saul,
but he's honoring the Lord
and what the Lord has chosen and put into place.
Yeah.
And I think we can be very, in church culture, we can be very judgy. And we can be very opinionated, and it just can be very easy to judge people in leadership. Mm-hmm. But instead, we need to just recognize they're here because the Lord has put them in this place, and we need to trust that the Lord knows what He's doing.
Totally.
And our honor needs to be for the Lord,
right?
And then if you have real issues, serve the Lord somewhere else.
I love these headphones because I can hear myself.
Have headphones now, and now we can hear every little. Anyways, so then we go into 1 Samuel 25.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure, I have a problem, is I listen to the Bible while I'm getting everything ready in the morning, getting the kids ready for school, doing dishes. And so what I'm doing is I'm hearing something that stands out, and instead of taking notes, I'm screenshotting the scriptures. Okay. But I'm losing, I need to sit down and actually write it out because I'm losing context beforehand. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Because then I sit here and I go, what was happening? Pretty sure in 1 Samuel 25, though, is when Saul discovers that David was in the cave.
No, it's in 24.
That's in 24.
Yeah, because they have a conversation.
Oh, shoot. Now I got to open my Bible and go to 25. Hold on.
This is a crazy interaction.
1 Samuel 25. Oh, we have the death of Samuel. Hold on.
1 Samuel 24,
oh, I know 11 it was Abigail. Okay, so we go back.
Conversation.
24:11 is the conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you. What's interesting though is Saul's out to kill David,
right?
And then David's like, "Hey, I had the opportunity to kill you, but I didn't." And when David finishes talking, Saul calls back and says, "Is that really my son, David?" And then he begins to cry.
My son.
It's almost like Saul is a manic man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's having moments of being lucid for a little bit. It's kind of like watching somebody have a psychotic break.
Yeah.
And so he's it feels like such a confusing response.
Right.
It's almost like when you do something and you know you shouldn't be doing it, but you do it anyways. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
There's his response is almost like that, it's like he can't control himself.
Sure.
What?
No, I think it's funny.
But you know what I mean? He almost can't control himself. Mm-hmm. He's so paranoid.
Yeah.
That he wants to go after David. And then he's having this moment of it's
almost manipulative.
He's crying because he loved David.
Mm-hmm. I read it. It was interesting. When I read the crying part, I want to be careful. I say this.
You feel like it was manipulative.
I felt like it was manipulative. Now, maybe that's just from personal experience. But you sit here and I go, oh, I've seen tears of manipulation. You're in a very weak, vulnerable moment and this person spared your life.
Yeah.
And now you're going to cry?
Yeah, well, that's true. That could be. Well, he kind of praises him, you're a better man than me, whatever. And then it says, don't kill my family. I recognize that you're going to be king. I like this. Here's product placement in the scriptures for you. And now I realize that you are surely going to be king, and the kingdom of Israel will flourish under your rule. Do you like how I called it product placement?
That is product placement for sure.
And then he says, just don't kill my family. Okay.
Yeah, because this all benefits him. That's why I feel like he's manipulating David.
Yeah, maybe.
He's crying. He's fluffing him up. Mm-hmm. You're so amazing. You're so much better than me. Please don't kill me and my family.
But David said, okay.
And David goes, great.
I think that was probably not hard for David to agree to because Jonathan was his best friend.
Sure.
That feels pretty easy, to agree to. Okay, I won't kill my best friend. No problem.
Not a problem.
So then we go to, there's the death of Samuel, and then David finds Abigail.
I love this story.
Abigail. She's married to a crazy man, crazy drunkard, I think.
Nabal?
Nabal?
Maybe.
Naval. I don't really fully understand the whole purpose of this, aside from just like setting the stage for him to marry Abigail, which we don't need to get on topic today, but he has, 3 wives in this story or whatever, and he has Mike.
Nabal. Sorry, it's Nabal.
I was like, who's talking?
I just thought it was funny.
I didn't realize you were doing that, but I was like, who? We're in a room by ourselves.
Yeah, continue. David already has a lot of wives. So now he wants Nabal.
And I'll be honest, when I read about these people and this is his wife, and then this is his wife, and then this is his wife, and this is his wife, I feel offended on their behalf.
Sure.
Because we live in a day and age where polygamy is not widely accepted. And I get offended,
Totally.
It's like when I read the story of Abraham and Sarah, and she's like, take, what's her name? You know who? Ishmael's mom. Hagar. That's Hagar. It. Yeah, why couldn't I get there?
There's too many people.
Shoot, that took so long. But, I hear it and I just go, I'm offended on their behalf. I don't know if they were offended or not.
No.
I don't know if they had jealousy issues.
He takes Abigail to be his wife, and I'm like, what a beautiful love story. And the next line is, he also took
this one and then this one. And it's like, wow, David.
Like, okay.
I don't even know if it's a beautiful love story. I don't get it. But
it just feels like she's with this like ornery, angry, disrespectful man who's probably controlling and a beast to live with.
And then he dies.
And he's like, hey.
And then David's like, I'll marry you.
But he dies. The way he dies is what's fascinating.
I just wondered, was David's plan to marry her all along from the beginning? Like, he was like, hedging my bets, this is going to work out for me.
But did you see how he dies? It's when Abigail
has a stroke.
She gives David all these things. She's like, I'm so sorry. My husband stinks. Like, he's terrible. And she's like... She goes and talks to him.
Like us to read the Bible from our perspective and read it. And then she was like going.
Then David takes her present and she goes home and Nabal is drunk. She's like, I'm not going to talk to him when he's drunk. I'm going to talk to him when he's sober. So she goes to talk to him when he's sober. And she basically goes, hey, just so you know, I went and chatted with David and I gave him a bunch of stuff and he liked it. And he said, it's fine that you were a jerk. And then he has a seizure, like a stroke.
Yeah. But he doesn't die until a couple days later.
He freezes. It says he freezes on the table for 10 days.
What was the point of that?
And he dies.
I want to know. What was the point of that?
That's a beautiful love story.
I do like this, though, that she says. Okay. So she says, as surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, since the Lord has kept you from murdering and taking vengeance.
Right.
Let all your enemies and those who try to harm you be cursed, as my husband is. And here's a present that I, your servant, have brought you and your young men. Please forgive me if I've offended you. The Lord will surely reward you. Blah, blah, blah. Then she says, even when you are chased by those who seek to kill you, your life is safe in the care of the Lord your God, secure in his treasure pouch. I was like, am I listening? This sounds like the Passion Translation.
Is it the Passion?
It's not. It's New Living. But the lives of your enemies will disappear like stones from a shot from a sling.
Oh, did she know about
Goliath? Did she know that this was the David with Goliath?
She did her homework.
Was she having a prophetic moment?
Maybe. I don't know. I can't remember what happens with Abigail. That's actually really great too.
But she basically prophesies over him.
Yeah.
Does she know? Do people know at this point that he was anointed king? Because it was Saul's not dead yet.
No, which is actually kind of wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
To be anointed.
So I just think it's interesting. She had some sort of prophetic insight. And then 10 days later, the Lord struck him and he died.
Also, I highlighted this. Saul, meanwhile, had given his daughter Michal. Isn't this the one that becomes a pain in his side later?
Right.
David's
Well,
wife.
okay. So David goes back to get her.
Yeah.
Because
later.
Saul gives her away. Later, he goes back to get her. And then
Yeah.
she was mad at him for dancing in the streets, undignified.
Yes. But
This
I just
is
thought
her.
it was interesting. They were like, also, this is Mikkel's now been married off.
Yeah,
So
the
she's
hard
gonna
thing
come
is,
back.
too, is I think, like, she really wanted to be with David. Like, it was a good thing they got married. But then David's been on the run for a very long
Been
time.
on the lam.
And so she was given, he's been on the lam, and she's been given to somebody else. And maybe she really loved that guy, you know? Maybe she really loved him. And then David comes and he goes, too bad, you're mine. That's just, what a challenge. That button really works.
I know. I've been trying to utilize it.
I couldn't hear you laughing when you pushed the button.
Using
down.
lotion,
can you hear me
drinking my
laughing?
drink. No, I can't.
Wow.
Coughing. I've done a lot with this button.
We have a cough button and I never use it. I forget. Anyway, so David marries Abigail. I don't know how they dealt with the multiple wives thing. It just blows my mind and just confirms I would never have survived back then.
Like, it seems like you'd need an administrator at that point.
I just,
Like, that sounds exhausting.
maybe that's what they wanted, you know?
Right.
But I think because I put myself into the scriptures too much,
Yeah, for sure.
that then I put Jay in the scriptures with me.
And then you kind of hate him
and
for
so
a little
then he
bit.
becomes David in that moment. And then I get really mad at him. Like, why do you have other wives, Jay?
That
You know what
was
I mean?
disgusting of you.
Yeah.
Also, I
It's
think
like
about
when you
Austin
have
and I
a
go,
dream about your husband cheating on you.
Right.
And then you wake up in the morning and you're like,
Absolutely
why
mad.
did you cheat on me?
Absolutely.
That's how I feel. Because the
Also-
scriptures are so alive to me.
Maybe it's just because we're enough women for 10 women. Do you know what I mean? Like, our
Why would
husbands
you
are
need
like,
anyone else?
we have one of you, and that is absolutely more than enough.
100%.
In so many
That's
ways.
exactly it. So let's keep going. So David spares Saul again.
Mhm.
You know, he just keeps calling him the Lord's anointed one.
Wild.
So David's the Lord's anointed one, though, which is
Right.
wild. So he's acting in the opposite spirit that Saul is,
That's a great point.
because Saul is like constantly trying to kill David,
Yes.
who is the Lord's anointed one.
Mm-hmm.
And David is responding very differently.
Mm-hmm.
He's responding with mercy,
Yeah.
which leads me to this.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about it very briefly this morning,
Yeah.
and this isn't what was in our reading, but I started thinking about David and the parallel with Jesus.
Yes.
And so we have this parallel of Jesus. David, he rides into the city
Right.
on a horse.
Uh-huh.
He's got his warrior garments, whatever,
Garb.
and they're celebrating the victory, right? And then you have the parallel of Jesus entering
Mm-hmm.
Jerusalem on a donkey,
Right.
not a horse. And I started realizing, like, obviously when these people saw Jesus coming, the Messiah coming into Jerusalem, they all misunderstood him,
Yeah.
right? So they're expecting a warrior as David was a warrior,
Right.
but Jesus was coming in on the donkey with the other side of David,
Mm.
which is the, you know what I'm talking about. He was not the warrior. He's the
Peace.
peacemaker.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus is a warrior, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it
Right.
feels like I'm starting to realize this. Like, when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at David because David is like the Old Testament Jesus figure.
Sure.
And so I just think it's interesting, the parallels between and understanding why when Jesus showed up, it was such a conflict for people,
Mm-hmm.
because he was not operating in the way they expected.
Right.
They were expecting a king like David to rise up.
Yeah. Violently.
A violent king to rise up, because also we talk about that story in wherever it is, the Lord tells David, you can't build the temple because you have
Right.
too much blood on your hands.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that I'm reading it through this time, I'm paying attention to how much blood is truly on David's hands.
Totally.
Like, it's a lot.
It's a lot of blood.
It's a lot of blood. And then we were talking about how Jesus kind of came in on the donkey and had
No blood on
clean
his
hands and a pure heart.
Clean hands, pure heart.
Anyways, that's
No, it's
just
really
a little
great.
side note.
I think it's a great picture too, because I think I said, oh, I love David so much. And I know how cliche it is, but man,
Yeah.
the story of David is just beautiful. But it also takes up a large chunk of the Bible.
It takes up a large chunk of the Bible.
Like, think
yeah.
about Psalms. Those were all written by David. And there is something so beautiful about David's relationship with the Lord.
He has a real tenderness to the Lord.
Yeah. That somehow culminates almost all the people we've read about so far. There's pieces and parts of all of them all wrapped up into David.
Yeah.
Like Moses and Abraham, and the way they've represented their relationship and their friendship with the Lord, it culminates in David, but he has so much emotion. I think this is the first person I feel like I've read about that has an enormous amount of emotion. Do you think that he
was a 4 Enneagram?
Absolutely. We don't talk about the Enneagram, though.
The Enneagram. But do you think he was, though?
Yeah, absolutely.
The creative, emotional
feeler. Like, I'm just going to cut his robe, not his heart. You know?
And
he probably wrote a poem about it after.
He probably did.
Like, I'm the only one to have ever felt this way ever. In this moment. No one has ever been more persecuted than I.
He's a very talented guy, though.
He's very talented.
He knows how to hear the voice of the Lord. He knows how to respond. He knows how to write poetry and songs.
Yeah.
He can kill a lion with his sling and stone and Goliath. Like, he's a jack of all trades, this guy.
He really is. But the other thing I love about David, because I feel like we can all resonate with him in some way. And I feel like personally I resonate with him because he makes like big mistakes. But then he's like largely sorry about them. Like, I feel like I've been there so many times in my life where
he comes before the Lord.
But he makes big, like, he just like is a very passionate guy. And he'll do things and then go, oh, shoot, that's probably not the way. I didn't really I felt that way in the moment. And I said those things.
Maybe that's why the Lord says he's someone after his heart, is not just in all the things he does and the decisions he makes, it's his humility and accepting his mistakes.
Totally. He's very good at it. Is what
he accepts his his lot. Like when his son dies because of his mistake, it's like he kind of accepts it. Right. Like this is what happened.
I know what I did.
I know what I did.
I know what I did.
And he kind of accepts it, and
and pays penance. Like, I don't think the Lord wants us to do penance like that anymore. But it reminds me of Martin Luther. Martin Luther used to he would pay penance in like extreme ways. Like, he would give himself lashes like Jesus multiple times a week, and it was just like his way of representing, I know that I'm a sinner, and I don't think obviously I agree with that theologically, but it does remind me of David that he's the first to say, I messed up here. I made big mistakes here.
He was trying really hard to hide the Bathsheba and Uriah thing. And then when the prophet called him out, and it's just like,
totally.
He responded though, like, okay, I understand.
I know. I did that.
And he had to walk his wife through losing her son, which is
terrible.
Probably really hard and really challenging. So anyways, then on to, where are we? 27? Did you have anything in 26?
Hold on. I'm looking through. What is my crime? Oh, when Saul finds him again. And he's like, literally, why are you chasing me? And he does this thing again where he goes, I have sinned, my son. Come back home, my son. I won't harm you anymore, for you valued my life today.
Also, David goes and lives amongst the Philistines.
He does. He also, the spear part, we kind of skipped it. It was in 22. He gets a spear, which gets someone else killed because he tells Saul about it, or he doesn't tell Saul about it. And Saul's all upset about the spear.
Oh,
that was given to him. I can't remember whose it was. But here in this chapter, David gives it back to Saul. The thing that Saul killed someone else over, where he said, wait a minute, someone gave Dave a spear. What is it to kill me? And David not only says, no problem, I forgive you. Here's the very weapon you're worried about me using to kill you. So now David's put himself in a vulnerable position.
Oh, that's really interesting.
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It says the Lord gives his own reward for doing good and for being loyal. I refuse to kill you, even when the Lord placed you in my power, for you, the Lord's anointed one.
Wow.
Anyways,
that's really beautiful.
It's wild.
I didn't realize that. See, this is what happens when you just listen to it and you're not like sitting down and absorbing it.
Right.
Because you miss things. Next week, I'm absorbing. Next week,
I'll absorb.
This week was a busy week, but we go into 1 Samuel, like 27. Well, David's living among the Philistines.
Okay.
He, then we have the really famous Samuel chapter 28. We talked about it last time, but last time I didn't read it because
why?
I was like skimming through it because it was a busy week, right?
Right.
And so then I sat down on the podcast. And my dad goes, "You're not going to talk about the witch of Endor?" And I went, what are you talking about?
And then I called you.
And then he started telling me on the podcast. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's a really funny episode to listen to because I'm sitting there listening to it in real time. Like my dad's telling me and I'm going, what? How have I never heard this story before? And then you called me today and you said, oh, we're not going to talk about the Witch of Endor. And I'm like, that was in this week's reading?
Yeah.
I read it too. And why is my brain not like registering it?
I don't know, because this is
idea. It's
a wild
chapter. Story. So Saul's not hearing from the Lord any longer, and Samuel is dead, and Saul's in a very insecure place, and he wants to find out what to do with
He's
the
frantic with fear.
Yeah. So they were like, "There's a woman who's a medium, and we can ask her what to do." So he disguises himself by wearing ordinary clothes. He's not wearing the kingly garments. And he goes to the woman's house at night and he says, I have to talk to a man who died. I'm sorry.
Wow.
You could hear that in the
noise.
microphone. I'm so sorry. I wish Tony could cut that out.
Too bad.
Anyways, so she was like, are you trying to get me killed? Because she's talking to Saul. Right. Saul has outlawed all the mediums.
Totally.
But now Saul's trying to come to me and use me as a medium. And Saul took an oath in the name of the Lord, which we've learned about making hasty oaths, that's a problem.
That's a problem. Don't do it.
What happened to, what's his name's daughter who came out and he had to kill her?
She had to go dance.
Somebody else made an oath, a hasty oath. Saul made a hasty oath about, hey, whoever did this, I'll kill even if it's my own family. And then it was Jonathan.
Yeah.
So we have a problem here. Saul taking hasty oaths, but he just basically says nothing bad will happen to you. And the woman says, whose spirit do you want me to call up? And he says, call up Samuel. And then when the woman saw Samuel, she screamed, you've deceived me. You are Saul. So whatever she did worked. Was it really Saul? I mean, was it really Samuel? Was it a demonic spirit?
I don't know.
This is a really wild story.
Very uncomfortable though.
I don't like, what shows up on my real algorithm a lot is that celebrity medium guy. Do you know his name?
Yeah, I don't know his
Tyler
name.
Henry is his
Whatever.
name.
I don't know his name.
But that shows up a lot. I won't ever stop on those videos.
No,
I just go, this is not, like, if this is not an indicator that I don't care who you are or how secure you feel in the Lord, this is not something we should be filling our brains with.
No.
These are not videos we should be stopping on and watching because all you have to do is read the story about Saul to put the fear in the Lord of you. Because this is what Saul dies.
Yeah.
Because he's engaging with a medium and talking to dead spirits. So for any of you that have a Ouija board at home or whatever,
time to throw it out.
Time to clean and purge and anoint your house with oil. But somehow she realizes it's Saul.
An old man wrapped in a robe.
Samuel gets up and goes, what up, Saul?
Well, it says, what does he look like? Saul asked. He's an old man wrapped in a robe, she replied. Saul realized it was Samuel and fell to the ground before him.
Yes.
Why have you disturbed
What's
me?
interesting is he's asking her, what do you see?
Yeah.
But then Samuel's asking Saul. So is Saul hearing this voice?
Maybe.
Or is she relaying the information? Why have you disturbed me? So Samuel, could you just imagine being Samuel asleep in Abraham's bosom? Because that's where he was at that time, right?
Right.
And then being called up out of the ground.
Wow.
This whole story is just...
It's wild.
Wild.
Well, yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, we talked about earlier. I think it's fascinating. It says here that he initially asks the Lord, and the Lord does not respond. Which he said when he saw the Philistine army, he was frantic with fear. He asked the Lord what he should do, but the Lord refused to answer him, either by dreams, sacred lots, or by the prophets. Which I just think it's fascinating. He now knows he's in deep trouble.
He's desperate.
He's desperate. So then he calls on Samuel, of all the people, which Samuel we know his whole story was, he could hear from the Lord. And I think, there were probably a lot of people he could have called upon, but he chose Samuel. And Samuel is at the beginning and at the end, which I think is fascinating that he's here.
The beginning and the end of
It's
Saul's.
very poetic. Austin has said he thinks Samuel looks like Gandalf from The Hobbit.
Totally.
From The Lord
that
of the Rings.
That would make sense.
Like he pictures him
really
like that.
old like that.
Yeah.
Totally.
Like he's Gandalf and he comes
out of
in his robe and he's tall with the...
But he says, like, why are you calling me back? And Saul's like, because I'm in trouble and the Philistines are at war and God's left me and I have not had dreams and I've called for you to tell me. And he says, why ask me since the Lord has left you and has become your enemy? The Lord has done just as he said he would. He has torn the kingdom from you and given it to your rival David. The Lord has done this to you today because you refused to carry out his fierce anger against the Amalekites, which, wow, that's...
Yeah.
What's more, the Lord will hand you and the army of Israel over to the Philistines tomorrow, and your sons will be here with me.
Wow.
So he's basically saying, you're about to die, and your sons are about to die too.
And only your sons are going to be with me.
Yeah.
Is really what he just said,
Saul
too.
fell full length on the ground, paralyzed with fright. Like it's similar to Abigail's husband. Paralyzed with fright because of Samuel's words. He was also faint with hunger because he hadn't eaten anything. And the women saw how distraught. She said, I obeyed you. Now do what I say and let me give you something to eat so you can regain your strength. But he refused to eat. But I just think like this is a wild story. What is the point of this story?
I don't know. I think you have
this
to look
guy
at...
talks like Samuel too. So was it Samuel? Was it a demon? Was it, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, was she calling forth the actual spirit? Was it actually Samuel? You know what I mean? Like, I just have so many questions. I think it's fascinating.
I think it's interesting too. I think it's a parallel. I think you have to look at Saul and David at the same time.
100%.
Because they're just 2 chapters ago is when David was he was being pursued.
Yeah.
And he's in a new camp of people he does not know. And what does he do when he goes, I feel like something's off. I'm going to ask the Lord what to do. And the Lord immediately responds and says, you need to leave. They're going to betray you.
Yeah.
And then we have Saul, the very next chapter, who's being surrounded, is scared, is frightened, and has to go to the Lord. And the Lord's saying nothing. And I think in those moments where I think on a theological level, I don't think the Lord leaves you. I don't think he's going to ignore you. I don't think that there's never a redemptive moment for you in your life.
Yeah.
But I do think we can all probably relate to moments where we don't hear the Lord. And when I read this chapter, I went, there's definitely moments where the Lord has been quiet. Have you had moments where the Lord you're feeling like, okay, I don't feel like I can hear you on this one. I'm not.
I had seasons where I felt like
are you
not heard
speaking?
Anything. Yeah.
And it to me spoke to me, and maybe this is really whittling it down too small, but it spoke to me on when we don't hear the Lord and we're not getting an answer, when we're frightened with fear because we don't know what our next step is going to look like. What are we turning to?
Yeah.
What, like Saul here made a grave mistake.
Like David's turning to worship.
Right. Like he showed us, they both go to the Lord, both get different responses from the Lord. One gets a response, gets an answer, makes a haste. Like he goes, okay, I'm going to obediently leave.
Yeah.
Saul hears nothing. It's silent. And maybe you can say, well, he knew that the Lord had left him. But if he knew the Lord had left him, why did he turn to him? Right.
Yeah,
in that moment, he knew,
hoping the Lord would show up or something.
He kept turning to him. And I just think on a very small scale, when we think about, well, he tried to take it into his own hands. He went, no 100%. Problem. I'm going to take this into my own hands. I'm going to control my life. I'm going to control my destiny.
I'm going to force the Lord to talk to me one way or another.
I had made a decision to outlaw these types of people, but now I'm going to go to them. I'm going to break my own law that I made with the Lord, and I'm going to go get what I need and an answer that I need. And he got the truth.
Yeah.
That's certainly what he got.
Yeah.
He certainly got the truth.
Yeah. And it goes, well, you're going to die tomorrow.
Now here you go. If you want to know the truth, here it is.
Here it is.
And I wonder if part of the Lord didn't respond because he went, I already told you. I already told you.
I already gave you an answer.
I already gave you an answer.
I already told you that I was taking the kingdom from you.
Yeah. And my mind hasn't changed.
It is true. It's one of those things like trying to hasten the word of the Lord.
Yeah.
Like Abraham does.
Yes.
With Hagar, trying to it's trying to do things in your own strength and in your own might.
Yeah.
And it doesn't always turn out.
No, it actually reminded me of Judas.
Oh, and yeah.
When I read about Saul.
It's like trying to.
Yeah. Where I thought about Judas again, where I went, you did walk with the Lord. You knew him. He anointed you. You got to see the signs, wonders, miracles, the brilliance of the Lord. Yet he still looks at you and says, I don't know you. You're not walking with me.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean? And to make a large decision of you betray your conscience.
How do we make sure we're not a Judas, Saul, or in the end?
Yeah. I guess we got to be like David, because David feels like the opposite of Saul.
Yeah, 100%.
Also, do you feel like David and Saul are a picture of generational, like honoring the generation before us?
Yeah.
And David being the one that's coming up behind us?
David did a really great job.
Yeah.
He did a really great job.
Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want to be a Saul to the next generation.
I think it didn't happen immediately.
No.
And I think that's something that's really important, that David, even though he had a promise from the Lord,
right,
it didn't happen right away.
Right.
And so he still learned how to honor Saul.
Yeah.
Even though he knew he was going to be king.
Totally.
Some people could know that they're going to be king and be like, I'm going to do whatever the heck I want, because I am going to be wearing that crown one day.
Totally.
And David's responding with humility, and he's not entitled.
No.
He's humble about it.
Right.
And I think the way he honors Saul, I think we can learn a lot about that.
It's like David had no fear of man. Is really what I'm watching David going, oh, really? He didn't determine his character, his life, his gifting, his call.
Yeah.
All of those things were not determined on how Saul treated him.
Yeah.
Right? Because how many times can we go, I have this promise from the Lord, and based on how I'm getting received by people around me, how I'm experiencing people, maybe I'm not being raised up, maybe whatever. You can find like all of the reasons, and you can go, well, I guess it's not true. I'm going to have a pity party, or you're going to try to do it yourself, and you're going to try to make the promise happen.
I'll make a way.
Yeah. And instead it really has to do with, I feel like, the fear of man. And I feel like Saul really lives under the fear of man.
100%.
What changes him is there's a lot of Philistines. Yeah. I'm scared. I'm going to run back to the Lord because I'm afraid. I'm not going to live with you daily. I'm just going to come to you when I need something.
Yeah. 100%.
But yeah, I don't want to be a Saul to the next generation. Like at the end of the day, when I watch this, I go, I think on a greater level, I want to make sure I'm not acting like Saul, like, oh, you're going to take over, you're going to take my spot.
I want to make sure I'm honoring the generation ahead of me too.
Yeah, that too.
Like I always think about, we've talked so many times about legacy transitions and things like that at churches, and you watch, and sometimes it really fails.
Really
and
fails.
Sometimes it really backfires on people. And so you sit here, and you and I often talk about like what are these, like, how do you do it right?
Right.
And I think we can look at Joshua and Moses and that interaction, and how Moses was always taking Joshua with him.
Right.
But then you also look at David as in the position of honoring somebody and not trying to force the Lord's time.
Right.
Either. I don't know. I just think, I don't know. We have a lot to learn from David. There's so much you can talk about David. Wow.
Just taking a deep breath.
Just a deep breath. Because we're in the Philistines reject David. Oh, and then Saul dies.
Saul dies.
So here's what's interesting. David defeats the Amalekites in Samuel chapter 30. 1 Samuel chapter 30.
Okay.
Now, if you remember, the Amalekites are the ones that Saul did not defeat. And so I think it's really interesting that David
defeats them.
Did what Saul could not do. He defeats them.
Yeah.
So ultimately he's doing the kingly duty because the Lord said to defeat the Amalekites.
And
so David's the one who actually did it.
Right. Wild.
Yeah.
I wonder how many times that happens too.
Yeah.
Right? Like I think of generations that came, even in my own family line, where you go, well, we didn't do so hot there.
100%.
We could have done that better.
100%.
And now you're like, I guess I'll try. I'm going to do my best here.
I'm going to do my best
to not do that.
But he did. He goes, and everybody was in great danger after he did it. And even his men were upset with him. And they were talking about stoning David.
Wow.
Like, I wonder what psalm was written here.
That's true.
And they talked about it, but the David found strength in the Lord his God. I just think it's interesting. Can you imagine your people turning on you? The people you've been leading?
No.
And because you've made a decision that they don't like, they start talking about stoning you?
Oh, yeah.
Is there any modern day application to this?
I think there's a lot. I think that probably happens more often than not.
Like David makes a decision and it comes at a cost. When you're in leadership, there's sometimes decisions have certain.
I don't know why I thought about the Brown Stadium. It's very minuscule, but there's like a lot of response to that, right?
What, building the new dome stadium?
Yeah, building it in Brook Park. Like, obviously, people have very strong opinions about it.
Not Cleveland.
Yeah. And they probably want to stone a lot of people that want to move it. We don't have to get into it, but that's the first thing that came to my mind. The people rise up.
Great example. Ashley, you're right.
You know what? You say that, but there are a few people listening to this right now that are having strong reactions. I know it. Because we're Clevelanders.
We don't like change.
We've
already had a change from the Indians
to the Guardians.
Oh yeah, that's right. The Indians to Guardians. They got rid of Chief Wahoo. We've had to change a whole. It's just change.
Yeah.
We always lose.
We just lost as the Cavs. What a bummer. Like, there's probably a lot of people upset about leadership today too. We just need to win. Anyways, I'm not even like that big of a sports fan, but I know it's a problem right now.
We just have to talk really quick. We only have a few minutes left. But we do have to talk about Saul and Saul dying.
Okay.
So Saul was afraid of the Philistines. There's somewhere else in scripture it talks about somebody. This is why I'm like, I wish you could read it in chronological order so that you know like the story, because I'm sitting here going, I heard somewhere that it was an Amalekite that killed him.
Okay.
But then I'm reading here and it's like the Philistines. He was up against the Philistines. But then I think it mentions it somewhere else in scripture. I just don't know it now.
We've talked about that before because we said, the people that he didn't kill came back and killed him.
Yeah, because 1 Samuel 31 makes it sound like he fell on his own spear to commit suicide, is what it sounds like to me. But he tells his servant, says, take your sword and kill me. And the servant's like, no, I'm not doing that. And so then he falls on the spear.
Yes.
So then I was like confused because I'm like, it sounds like he killed himself. But then there's apparently another scripture that implies that he was finishing it.
Okay.
Like he was already dying.
Okay.
But he wanted to hasten the death.
Well, it says he groaned.
Yeah. And what's really sad, though, is that Jonathan died. I think.
It says he was wounded. He was wounded severely. Wounded. Okay.
Yeah. So then I feel sad, though, because I feel like Jonathan was a loyal guy.
Poor dude.
And the fact that he was really loyal to David.
Right.
But would it have been hard for David to be king with Jonathan still alive?
Possibly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, would that have caused problems?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel sad. Like, I feel like I'm losing a friend here. Jonathan dying. Like,
I'm sorry.
He was loyal.
He really was.
He was loyal. He didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
At least to my knowledge, from what history recorded. It feels like he was he was on David's side. Like he was a David ally. Like he had a psycho dad. He helped David escape. Like it's sad that he died. He had to die because of his dad.
Really, that's his only crime. His relatives.
Could you imagine if we had to be held to account?
That's not going.
But like, could you imagine?
No, I don't want to.
But then Saul died, and that was it.
The end.
What else do we do there?
That's it.
Because really what happens is you get into Chronicles, because it goes right into Chronicles, and wow, is it a lot of genealogies.
Yeah.
I have one note from the genealogy before we wrap it up. We can just wrap it up here.
Okay.
Hold on. Okay. 1 Chronicles 1, verse 10.
Okay.
Cush was also the ancestor of Nimrod. Now, when we use the name Nimrod,
right,
in nowadays culture, it's an insult.
It is.
If I call you Nimrod,
please don't.
It's not a nice thing to say.
No.
Here it says he was the first heroic warrior on the earth.
Wow.
Just wow. Like, I just love the genealogies, the little hidden people in here.
Yeah, that's true. Because
it just lists name. And then all of a sudden it's Nimrod. He was a heroic warrior. Name. And then it has Jabez, who loved the Lord, blah, blah, blah. Name. It's just like, would we be someone listed in a genealogy where we're just a name?
Yeah, right.
Or is there, like, what would the Lord write about us? If he were to write one sentence about Ashley Schrock in a genealogy,
she was just always there. That's what it's going to say. She didn't bring much to the table, but she was there consistently. Every time I turned around, she was there.
Ongoing joke about how Ashley, we'll just say about her, she was there.
I was just there.
She was there.
I'm not going to quit. Like, I'll just be here.
And she was there.
And I'll do That's things.
All it would say. It would say, name. Ashley Schrock, she was there.
She was there. She was always there.
Name. But what would it say about me? You know, like, doesn't it make you go,
she was there too.
What? She read the Bible.
There's a lot of things I want to say, but we're on a podcast that other people listen to.
I was just really like this. This is a great exercise to work on this week. What is the sentence you want the Lord to say
you know
about
what?
you?
That's a great thing. Why don't you post it on Facebook?
I'm going to.
We should do that.
If you're going to say, if only one sentence was recorded about you in history,
what would you want it to say?
What would it say about you? Would it say that you were faithful and loyal? What about Hezekiah? There was a sentence somewhere in one of the genealogies or something. Whoever, you read it and you go, I'm just reading all these names. And then you go, oh, the Lord wanted to highlight Nimrod.
He wanted to highlight Nim.
That he was a heroic warrior. And in the next chapter, he highlights Jabez.
Oh, yeah.
Who was named Jabez because his mother's birth was excruciatingly painful.
Aren't they all?
I'm about to have 3 Jabezes.
Poor woman.
Anyways, this has been a great episode talking about David. I look forward to continuing this next week.
That'll be so wonderful.
It's going to be so great.
Thank you for joining us.
Keep reading the word, and we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.